I'm Heather from Booktubes, and today is Cinnamon Roll Romance Heroes. So these are men that are just sweet for their girl. It doesn't really matter how they do that, it's just they are going to emotionally take care of their girl. They're going to be very careful with her. Now, I've made no secret that I actually really love alpha males in my romances. I have a video from last year where I talk about some of my favorites, but I like having a balance, honestly, I have found, of reading alpha males and cinnamon roll heroes. Now, a cinnamon roll hero doesn't have to mean that the woman wears the pants in the relationship, for a lack of a better way to describe that. It can vary quite a bit. For me personally, I generally still like them to be dominant in the bedroom. That's just what works for me. But not all of these are, and some of them worked incredibly well and surprised me very much. So the first one I'm going to recommend is one of my all-time favorite cinnamon roll heroes, and that is Counterfeit Love by Jessica Gadziala. This is a girl who is a survivor of sex trafficking, and she is taking down the clients. She has a friend who is working at taking down traffickers, but ultimately where there is a market for something, somebody else will step into the void, right? And she's actively taking down clients, the people who buy the girls, or the girls or the boys. And for this one operation, she needs a counterfeiter. So she does her research, she figures out how to blackmail this guy, and she and some of her friends break into his apartment, and she's like, you are going to do this for me. Here's your equipment, this is what you're gonna do. And he is just like, I would have helped you. All you had to do was ask. And he's so sweet to her. He is someone who is a jokester to a certain extent, but he knows when she needs a joke and needs a distraction, and he knows when she needs him to be serious or silent, or just let her process what she's going through, or, you know, again, a distraction when she needs to not be going down this thought path. He has quit smoking, and so he always has cherry lollipops in his mouth, and I actually really don't like cherry candy. I like watermelon, but I loved it so much. I just really loved the care that he took with her, and how she was very prickly and he was kind of sweet and easygoing, but they worked so well together. And even though they had wildly different personality types, they really were each other's equals, you know? They complemented each other so well. And this is one of those books where the heroine rescues the hero. If you are looking for that, it's a good time. Obviously, there's content warning for sex trafficking, not vividly, but we do kind of have a little bit of an indication of what she had gone through. It's not graphic, but you should still be aware of it, right? Next one I have is The Duke Who Didn't, which is Wedge Trials #1 by Courtney Milan. This is the only Courtney Milan that I've read so far, and I absolutely loved it so much. He was so sweet. So they are childhood friends to lovers, and he hasn't been back for this game festival that they have. He hasn't been back for 3 years. Now, he actually owns the whole town. He is a half Chinese duke and faces quite a bit of racism, obviously, amongst the nobility, although he's a duke, so, you know, he does have ranking, but still, he's obviously not completely white, so that's still an issue. And he loves this commoner, basically. She's a Chinese immigrant, and he loves her, but he really doesn't want to force her to have to put up with all the things that he has to put up with the nobility. So that is something that is kind of a hindrance for him. And then she had told him to be serious or not be there, and so he hasn't been back in 3 years, and she's really hurt by that. And he is actively trying to figure out how to make her his wife, and she does not see that, and he is trying to convince her that he's not joking, and so he's going around it in this way, because if I just say, hey, I want to marry you, she's literally not going to believe me. She is very type A, very list oriented. She goes around with a clipboard, lots of different things, but he's so sweet and funny and kind to her. And there are so many things in this book that are reveals that I really, really, really loved. I laughed so hard at the morning after scene. I was just dying of laughter. and I just loved their dynamic. I loved the characters. It takes place over the course of like a week, and I just adored it. I adored it. Next I have If She Says Yes by Tasha L. Harrison. I love this book. I don't know how you don't know that. So we have Darcy, who's a 55-year-old Black woman, and we have Tomas, who is a 32-year-old, I think, Mexican-American? Now I can't remember. Because why would my brain hold on to facts? It wouldn't. But he is her son's best friend, and her son is getting married at her house in Charleston. And we get such beautiful, like, vivid imagery of her wandering around her big house, watering her plants in her bathrobe, and I'm just, like, obsessed with it. Tomas is a pretty submissive hero, which, again, does not work for me. I like for my heroes to be dominant, especially in the bedroom. He just worships the ground that she walks on, and he's not like a pushover or anything. And plus, she's not a pushy person. She's somebody who takes care of everyone to the detriment of her own self. And her son's father, she was about to divorce him, and he died. She had found out that he had a mistress. The mistress had a son, and her son and the mistress's son, they want to be in each other's lives, so the mistress and the son are invited to the wedding, and that's very stressful for her. She's having a difficult time with everything, finding out about her husband's infidelity, the death of her husband, her son getting married, all of these things. She's really not taking care of herself. And so her son says to his best friend, he's like, hey, can you take care of my mom for the weekend? And he does take care of her. And it's so good. The laundry room scene, maybe just like one of the hottest things I've ever read. It worked. It worked so well. And something that I really love about this book, and I'm really looking forward to rereading it now that I know this, is you never have the showdown with the son. You never have him finding out. It definitely ends on a happily for now. And I think that in the future, he kind of ends up seeing it. And it's so funny because the son tells his best friend, tells Tomas to not sleep with his aunt. And he's like, I'm not gonna sleep with your aunt. And in his head, he's like, but I'm definitely gonna sleep with your mom. And it's great. It's great, okay? It works so well. The fact that there was zero grooming happening is addressed, all of that. Obviously, he's over 30, which I find to make the large age gap significantly more comfortable. And I just love it so much, and I can't wait to reread. It's happening soon. Soon. Next I have Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which is the Brown Sisters #1 by Talia Hibbert. My eye is like blurry for no freaking reason. It's fine. I still haven't read the third book, but all of the heroes in this series are definitely cinnamon rolls. This first one, we have a heroine who has fibromyalgia and chronic illness and quite a few different things that really affect her day-to-day living, and she's nice to everyone. And then we have Red, who is the super for the apartment building that she moves into, and he's nice to everybody, and they are not nice to each other at all. And I really loved it. I did think that the third act breakup was unnecessary. But the way that he took care with her, and again, the humor and the loving thoughtfulness in this book was something that really worked for me. And I have Green-Eyed Monster by Elsie Winters. This is a fantasy, paranormal, modern book. It's a novella. It's only 50 pages, and we have an orc at university, and he is so sweet. The orcs are really naturally possessive and jealous, and he kind of tries to tamp that down, but it does still play a role in the book. And he rescues this little elf fairy person, and they're like friends to lovers. They can't figure out when each other are flirting. But they're both like very interested, and he's so sweet and protective and sweet. It's adorable. You should read it. Next I have Halo Girl. No, I don't. Can't read my writing. Next I have Hula Girl by Lara Cosio. I haven't talked about this book in a minute, but this is a lawyer, goes from Los Angeles, maybe, to Hawaii for a vacation. She was basically forced into it by her mentor, and she meets the surfer guy and they have a vacation fling. It's very hot, and you know, she won't give up her job, he won't leave Hawaii, but they really have a connection. And she is 2 or 4 years older than he is, and he's very laid back and she's very uptight. And I really enjoyed reading their dynamic. That's not something that I usually go for, honestly, but it's something that really worked, and I really loved seeing his easygoingness and his care and the way that he kind of brought her out of her shell and maybe helped her see that work wasn't all she wanted out of life. Lastly, I have Ace of Hearts, which is FU High #1 by Ella Goode. This is a novella, it is a new adult, it is a high school senior romance, and we have a football player who just switched schools, and he sees this girl in the mall, and he tells his mom that he just saw his future wife, and it's so cute. And she has deep distrust of football players. She thinks they're kind of all douchebags, and he's like, no, I am not, and I'll prove it to you. And it's their romance, and I think that sometimes people are like, no, you can't meet your future spouse in high school, and it's like, or even like the person who takes your virginity isn't your forever and all that. And yeah, that's true for most people, but when your first love ends up being the great love of your life that lasts a lifetime, it's not something that you look back on and with regret and wish that you had been able to make it. You're literally together forever. That's so sweet, and I like reading about it as a change of pace. I think that it's adorable. She is like an A+ student, and he's just really sweet to her and wins her over. He's actually a good person. So that's it. Those are some cinnamon roll hero recommendations. Obviously, this is wildly popular. Again, I do like alphas, but these are some of my very favorites where I was just like, you know, I really like this guy, and I really like him for her because this is what she needs. And these authors did it really well. Thanks so much for watching. Give me any recommendations you might have. I hope you have a lovely day. Thanks. Bye.